Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. I'm the GM Philosopher, and today we're talking about how to inject mystery into your D&D game. This topic was inspired by a request from PlatNum Patrick. And PlatNum Patrick said, "Great video, love the content. I have a question. I really want to run a Whodunit, but I'm a relatively new DM and all my players have only played a handful of sessions. Any advice would be awesome. Keep up the great work." Well, listen, PlatNum Patrick, thank you so much for the positive vibes, and I do have an answer for you. Now, I haven't run an incredible, large number of Whodunit type campaigns or sessions, but I have run my fair share of them. And I have 4 tips for you that are going to make this awesome. And in fact, the first 3 tips are crucial. Steps 1, 2, 3. Tip number 4 is the icing on the cake. It's the tip you're gonna want to really hone in on to make it go from pretty awesome to spicy level. And you know me, I love drama, I love spiciness. You wanna crank up the drama in your whodunit, pay attention to these 3 steps. And then tip number 4 is gonna be the boom. It's gonna be the big one that brings it all together. So you're not gonna wanna skip it. You're gonna wanna listen to all 4 of these tips. Now, if you have a request for the GM Philosopher, drop it in the comments. I'd love to answer it. If you have some advice for PlatNum Patrick about injecting mystery into a whodunit episode in your D&D games, drop that in the comments. Let's provide maximum value. And also, I want to encourage you, download my plot randomizer. The link's in the description. When you download it, you'll also be signed up for my email list. I send out emails 3 times a week. I have Magic Mondays, I have Wondrous Wednesdays, and D&D Fast Tip Fridays. You're gonna get my tips, and you're gonna be made aware of special things, special events. There's stuff coming down the pipe, special stuff. I'm growing the channel. We're doing big things. You're gonna be the first to hear about it if you join my email list. So make sure you do that. And don't forget to thumbs up and subscribe, because the more you thumbs up and subscribe, the more my videos are shared with more people, the more the channel grows, and the better the content becomes, because the bigger my audience, the more people who are liking and subscribing, the more bandwidth I have to create awesome content that will actually meet your needs. So thank you so much for doing those things in advance. I really appreciate it. Now let's get into the content, all right? I've got 3 tips, and then the big tip for the end. Do not miss it. Tip number 1. Decide beforehand what the mystery answer is going to be, and be very careful that you don't give it away too quickly, okay? Here's the problem. You're running a game. You want to inject some mystery. Now, I did this kind of recently. There were some magic murders going on in Amaranthine City on the Docks District. There was someone who was like serial killing immigrants. What was going on here? All the murders kind of looked the same, but there were no suspects. The authorities were at a loss, and my players were enlisted to help try to find the murderer. And since they were immigrants in the storyline, they were not only used as investigators, but used as bait for the murderer. And so I had a whodunit running relatively recently in my game. And one of the first things I did was I knew the answer, okay? You got to be careful. If you try to run into a whodunit without having it clear, having the end game clear, you could find yourself accidentally giving away clues that will hurt you in the long run, because you have to understand that like information and how it tracks back to being real will either help you or hurt you depending on your situation. And to avoid destroying the illusion of reality, you do not want to be haphazardly throwing clues around. To as much of a degree as possible, you want to have this clear in your mind, at least who did it, what the motive is, why they're doing it, how it's going about, right, etc. You really want to put some thought into this, because what this does is it helps you to be careful about the clues you give out. And that leads us to point number 2. You're going to plan clues. This is to be expected. There's going to be clues. People are going to be picking up on this stuff, right? It's a mystery. It's some kind of mystery. It's a whodunit. But in addition to planting real clues, you're also going to plant misleading clues, okay? Now, these don't necessarily have to be clues. You might just share some information haphazardly, offhandedly. You share it in a way that the players are going to think it's a clue. It might be coincidental. It might be circumstantial. Someone might be trying to mislead them, okay? But whatever the reason is, you want to find a reason to give them some misleading clues. And here's the key, and this is really a huge key. And in a tabletop roleplay game, this is actually really important. make the clues make it seem like the whodunit is too easy for the group. In other words, make it look a lot like it was this situation, the stereotypical situation. It's like, the clues lead to this outcome very quickly. And very quickly, there's like a key suspect, there's key motive. It just looks dirty for someone, but that's not the real answer. It's good to have that mislead early on, okay? This allows you to lead the group into a kind of trap where if they are not careful, they're going to point at the wrong person and there's going to be the wrong outcome. And this gives the real villain a chance to either trap them, ambush them, maybe potentially get away with it, strike when they're least expecting, etc. Right? So you want to play this game of like, okay, who done it? The clues look like it's this person, but it's actually a lot more complicated and they're in danger for even pursuing that initial line of suspicion. I love to play this game with my players. And probably the reason that it doesn't, like the reason that I get away with it so often is because I don't run whodunits super often in my games. Maybe once per long-term campaign, I run this kind of thing. So my players still are affected by it. They don't often see it coming. So it works really well. This leads to tip number 3. In my experience, the best whodunit for D&D involves at least one major misdirection. And now, what I was talking about before, you can have misleading clues. Maybe they find stuff that's circumstantial. Maybe they find stuff that doesn't really matter. Maybe they pick up on a theme and you think to yourself, oh, they're going in the wrong direction. And you feed that a little bit. Okay, fine. But I think there should be one big misdirection. It's sort of like Scooby-Doo. It's like the antagonist should be literally attempting to mislead them. And there should be a trail of clues that points to that, but it should be more difficult to find. And there should be a lot of people who don't want to talk about it because they are afraid of the antagonist, whatever. And it should be a lot more like almost like conspiracy theory-esque to follow that line, right? So it's like and it's even better when you get the players emotionally invested in this way. Like you get them emotionally invested in the misdirection, not in the fact that there might be a misdirection. You make that seem like the unpopular version, the version that the NPCs don't like, the version that the authorities don't like. That's the version that has real resistance against it, but you want to make it feel emotional and visceral to chase the misdirection. You want them to go in the path of the misdirection so that whoever's orchestrating the misdirection can come back and get them. I love this. It's like they go to apprehend who they think is the villain or find out the person they thought was the real villain is dead. And then they get ambushed by the real villain. Right? I love this kind of misdirection, and this makes a whodunit so much sweeter and more awesome. All right, now this leads us to point number 4. This, I think, is the most important thing, and this is what makes these types of sessions, campaigns, these types of arcs so much sweeter. And this is my number 1 tip that brings it all together. If a player picks up on the real answer before you're ready for the reveal, which if you have sharp players who are paying attention will probably happen. This will probably happen. Nothing to fear. I'm going to tell you exactly how to deal with it. Find in-game ways of countering their ideas, making either NPCs or undercover villains put them down for their bad ideas. It's basically a big in-game gaslight. You want to gaslight the heck out of those players, and I'm going to tell you why. Then you give them massive props when the fact that they were right is unveiled. But in the meantime, you gaslight the crap out of them. You make them, like everyone in the game is saying, you're crazy, you're crazy. Even they're credible people, right? They might back off of it or they might double down. Maybe there's even some consequences. Maybe they burn some friendships in the game because of this. But then when the reveal comes out, it is a huge reward. And it turns out they were right. And all of the NPCs who doubted them are like, I'm so sorry. If it weren't for you, we would have been destroyed, blah, blah, blah. And then the enemy is like, I would have gotten away with it if it weren't for you. And then they're like the arch villain of the villain. And there's like this emotional engagement. This is a little bit difficult to pull off because you have to really mess with your players kind of to a degree to make this happen. But if you can make it happen and commit to it and be the kind of GM who has like the tools to like make it stick and then pull it off, it is so rewarding. And it makes those players who were gaslighted and stuck with their ideals, it gives them such a massive reward for their epic role playing, their attention to detail, etc. And I love to reward those types of players. So that is my tip number 4. And that's going to be all I have to say about this one. Listen, whodunits are relatively difficult to pull off in D&D, but if you can just get the players emotionally engaged, feed them the right clues, make the game go a certain kind of way, you can really get away with it, and you can make it awesome, and you can reward your players for solving it. And it's really, really cool when you can do that. And to me, that makes a golden whodunit. And so I just want to say, PlatNum Patrick, awesome request. Thank you so much. And that's going to be it for this one. Hey, listen, I'm here almost every day creating videos about what I think is the best game in the world, D&D. So make sure you come back by and watch more videos. Thank you so much for coming by. Give me that thumbs up and that subscribe, and I will see you awesome people on the next one.